We're heading into week 4, and it's time for the college football playoff eliminator. It was kind of a quiet week in week 3 in terms of big games, marquee games, games that really change our thoughts on the playoff picture. But we do have some more group of 5 teams to eliminate, and have made a few changes for the Power 5 or Power 4 teams, I should say, as well, in terms of who the favorites are and all of that. So let's first start with the teams that were already eliminated: Akron, Kent State, Jacksonville State, Kennesaw State, New Mexico, Old Dominion, South Alabama, Troy, UConn, UMass, UTEP, Western Michigan, and Wyoming. And again, if you haven't been following this, basically what we're going with is if you're in the American or in the Mountain West, 3 games, you're eliminated. You're not going to be the highest ranked group of 5 champion if you got 3 games. And if you're in the MAC, the Sun Belt, or Conference USA, it's really 2 games. Because if you lose 2 games in those conferences, probably not going to be the highest ranked group of 5 champion. So that's the way we're looking at these group of 5 teams. This week we can eliminate Central Michigan, FIU, Miami of Ohio, Middle Tennessee, New Mexico State, Southern Miss, and Temple. So these teams are now out of it. So yeah, I was looking at Miami of Ohio because they played Northwestern pretty close, and would be a Power 4 loss. If they were able to run the table, I mean, they still have 2 losses though, and again, I don't think a MAC team with 2 losses is going to be able to get in. Now, if you're in the American, if you're in the Mountain West, 2 losses, you've got a real shot. But 2 losses in these other conferences, I just don't see it happening. So we're going to go ahead and eliminate these teams. Again, not near as many eliminations this week as we had last week, but the season's really about to pick up. We're about to really get into conference play. It's about to get a whole lot of fun as we begin this new era towards a 12-team playoff. So in the SEC, I still got these 4 teams as the favorites: Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss, and Texas. I know Georgia struggled against Kentucky, but I'm not really that concerned with this Georgia team. They've done it in the past. They've had games like that. I think they'll bounce back. Texas looks like the best team in all of college football right now. They are rolling. Ole Miss has been dominating. They haven't played a great team yet. We'll see once they do, in fact, play a quality opponent. And then Alabama, they really took it to Wisconsin. So these teams, in my opinion, are the favorites. I think they're the clear favorites in the SEC. But then you've got your other top at-large contenders. I think LSU, Tennessee, Texas A&M, and Missouri are here. And I am very close to putting Tennessee in that first category as a top contender. Let's see what they do against Oklahoma. That'll be a good test for them. You know, they had the nice win over NC State, but NC State really has not looked great. They struggled against a lesser opponent this past weekend. They won, but it was not a convincing win. LSU, I still think, has a ton of potential, and I know they lost to USC and they didn't look great against South Carolina, but I still think they have a ton of potential. Missouri as well, and then even Texas A&M, they really bounced back against Florida. So these teams are your top at-large contenders, and I'm not even going to put any dark horses in the SEC. I don't think there's anyone else. We had Oklahoma in that category. At one point we had Kentucky. At one point we had Auburn. I don't think any of those teams have any real shot to make the college football playoff. Now, Oklahoma could prove me wrong, and they could jump back into this conversation if they were to beat Tennessee, but I don't see that happening. So I'll go ahead and give you my prediction for that game. I'm going with the Volunteers. All right, next we've got the Big Ten favorites. It still, to me, looks like Ohio State, USC. I know these teams, I think actually both of them had a bye week, so we're not going to really make any changes there. Is Penn State one of these teams? Should they be considered a favorite? We'll see. Again, I want to see them play another quality opponent, but with some struggles, struggles against Bowling Green. Oregon's had some struggles. I'm going to put these as a top at-large contenders right now, but they could very easily jump back into that top contenders category really pretty quickly. So, yeah, right now we're going to go with them here as the top at-large contenders. And then really the only conference that I think that still has dark horse teams, it's the Big Ten: Michigan, Nebraska, and Iowa. Michigan's got to get it figured out this week. They don't get it figured out against USC. I think we can pretty much take them off this list. Nebraska, just kind of wait and see on them. And then Iowa, again, the schedule sets up pretty well for them. We'll see if they can compete against Ohio State. I think if they get beat by 40 against Ohio State, the committee's probably not going to put them in, even if they finish 10-2. So that's going to be a big test for them, how they compete against Ohio State. Not necessarily winning the game, but can they compete with the Buckeyes? All right, so now we go to the ACC and the Big 12. To me, I feel like it's kind of narrowed down already. I don't see anyone else out of the ACC that's really going to have a shot. I just don't. Clemson, Miami, Louisville, those are your teams. And it's really going to be about how good Louisville is. But it feels like it's Miami and Clemson kind of on a collision course. It's early. Things change. And this may not be the way it stays. We still got Syracuse. We still got North Carolina. We've got teams that have yet to really prove themselves, but they're going to have those opportunities coming up. But yeah, I think these teams are your favorites in the ACC, and we might have to start a category next week. So the thing with the Power 4 teams is if you win the conference, you're going to be in the college football playoff. It's probably not going to happen, but we could see an 8-4 team win the ACC or the Big 12. I mean, that could happen. There's a lot of parity in these conferences, but we may start a new category. We talk about bringing teams back from the dead, so we don't want to totally eliminate a team like Florida State or a team like Florida out of the SEC, but maybe we start a new category called on life support, because I think there are teams that you can pretty much say they're not going to make the playoff unless there is like some kind of miraculous change. Again, we're talking about teams like Florida State. I know Vandy started good, but Vandy has no real shot in the SEC, Mississippi State, teams like that. So they might mathematically still have a chance, but we can kind of start eliminating teams like that because, again, they just don't have any real shot, in my opinion. So maybe we'll look into that next week. But let's go to the Big 12 now. I think we've got clear favorites here as well. Oklahoma State, Utah, they play this weekend. That's going to be a huge, huge game. I feel like Oklahoma State, Utah, Kansas State, those are the favorites. UCF and Iowa State, though, have been impressive so far. UCF just beat TCU. What a comeback win for them. Iowa State's got that win over Iowa. So I'm going to say these are your 5 teams right now. West Virginia was here. Now, not feeling so good about them. Kansas, same thing. Again, those teams are not eliminated, but Arizona, they didn't look very competitive against Kansas State. Those teams not eliminated, but I don't even think I'd call them dark horses anymore. I don't think we really didn't have top at-large contenders in these conferences. The favorites, if you're not on this line, if you're not one of the favorites, you're probably not going to be an at-large team in the college football playoff. But this is going to be a fun race. And I'm interested to see just how good UCF really is. I'm not really ready to put them on that tier with Oklahoma State, Utah, and Kansas State, but I think based on what we've seen so far, you have to put them in this category for now, and same thing with Iowa State. I don't know if those teams have as much potential as Oklahoma State, Utah, and Kansas State, but they are definitely one of the favorites right now, as, again, this Big 12 race has kind of quickly narrowed down. Like I said, it could change. Arizona State, they've been impressive, but their schedule is going to be brutal. I'm not really buying them being a real favorite. So, yeah, we're going to see how it plays out the next couple of weeks, but that's my opinion on the playoff picture right now. Again, not a lot of changes from last week with not a lot of big games in week 3, but that is really going to ramp up with week 4 and week 5, and then we get into the meat of the season as we head into the month of October. So your thoughts on the playoff picture, and who you think maybe is going to surprise, maybe a team that I don't have as a favorite, or even a top at-large contender or dark horse, a team that you think is still a very real contender in this playoff picture. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below.